There's a moment after betrayal when the Sigma INFJ goes completely quiet. Not the kind of silence that comes from pain, but from realization. The realization that something inside them has shifted forever. The trust they once gave so freely is gone, and what replaces it isn't anger, it's calm, cold, dangerous calm. People mistake that calm for indifference, but they're wrong. That silence is the INFJ's evolution. It's the moment they stop trying to fix, understand, or forgive those who never valued their soul in the first place. The warmth they once offered turns into emotional precision. The empathy that once healed others now protects them. See, when a Sigma INFJ is betrayed, they don't seek revenge, they seek distance, they don't argue or beg for the truth. They already saw it long before it was confessed. And when they finally stop caring, it's not a reaction, it's a decision. The calm that follows betrayal is the most dangerous thing about them, because that calm means the INFJ has detached fully, silently, and permanently. They've stopped hoping for change. They've stopped giving explanations, and the version of them that tolerated lies no longer exists. Stay until the end, because once you understand the psychology behind a Sigma INFJ's calm after betrayal, you'll realize it's not just silence, it's transformation. Before we begin, subscribe to Brainy1, like this video, and comment, "My silence is my closure," because when a Sigma INFJ finally goes quiet, that's not peace, that's power. They go silent, but not weak. When a Sigma INFJ is betrayed, they don't scream, they don't argue, and they don't beg for answers. They go silent. But that silence isn't weakness. It's awareness. It's the moment they stop reacting emotionally and start processing everything with terrifying clarity. The INFJ's silence is their strongest weapon. It's not about shutting down, it's about stepping back. Because deep down, they already knew this betrayal was coming. Their intuition felt it long before the truth arrived. They saw the shift in energy, the hesitation in words, the distance in tone. So when betrayal finally happens, it doesn't surprise them, it confirms them. That's why their silence is so powerful. It's not the silence of confusion, it's the silence of realization. The INFJ isn't lost, they're recalibrating. They're quietly analyzing the moment everything changed, piece by piece, emotion by emotion. They don't want revenge, they want understanding. And once they have that, they never look back. Their calmness during betrayal makes people uncomfortable because they expect tears, arguments, and chaos, but instead, the INFJ gives them stillness. The kind that says, "You've already said enough." That's the kind of silence that can't be manipulated. In that quiet space, the INFJ begins to shift inward. They conserve their energy, stop explaining, and start healing. They understand that silence speaks louder than confrontation ever could. It doesn't just end the connection, it exposes the truth. Because nothing terrifies a betrayer more than being ignored by someone who used to care deeply. The INFJ's silence after betrayal isn't about pretending they're fine, it's about reclaiming control. It's their way of saying, "You no longer have access to my emotions." And that's where their strength truly begins, an emotional distance that can't be shaken. Because silence for a Sigma INFJ isn't an ending, it's a transition. The noise ends and the evolution begins. They go silent not to disappear, but to rebuild stronger, wiser, and no longer available to those who mistook their kindness for weakness. They replay everything in their mind. When a Sigma INFJ gets betrayed, silence isn't their only response. Reflection is. They go quiet on the outside, but inside, their mind becomes a movie reel of memories. Every conversation, every look, every subtle change in tone begins to play back frame by frame. And this time, they're not watching with love, they're watching with clarity. The INFJ's mind doesn't forget. It analyzes. It connects dots that others never even noticed. They remember the moments they brushed off their intuition, the small lies that didn't add up, the uneasiness they felt but ignored because they believed in someone's words more than their instincts. Now, betrayal makes all of it make sense. They replay everything not to torture themselves, but to understand. It's their way of decoding what went wrong, not to fix the other person, but to make sure it never happens again. Every betrayal becomes a psychological study, and the INFJ learns more from pain than most people learn in a lifetime of peace. They don't rush to heal. They let the memories surface piece by piece because the INFJ knows that you can't truly move on from something until you've faced it, felt it, and learned from it. Their calm doesn't come from denial, it comes from depth. But what makes this process so powerful is that while they replay the past, they slowly detach from it. Each memory loses its emotional grip. Each realization becomes a release. What once hurt them begins to lose its power because understanding transforms pain into wisdom. People who betray an INFJ never realize how deeply they're being studied in silence. They think the INFJ's calm is forgetfulness, but it's the opposite. The INFJ remembers everything, and by the time they finish replaying it all, they're already gone, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Their replay isn't revenge, it's closure. It's how they make peace with the truth. Because once a Sigma INFJ finish replaying everything in their mind, they stop asking why, and that's when their healing truly begins. They accept what others deny. When a Sigma INFJ gets betrayed, they don't fight the truth, they face it. While others hide behind excuses, denial, or temporary distractions, the INFJ looks directly at what happened, no matter how painful it is. They know that acceptance isn't weakness, it's the beginning of freedom. For most people, denial feels safer. It softens the blow, keeps hope alive, and makes it easier to pretend that someone's betrayal wasn't that bad. But the INFJ doesn't play that game. Once their intuition confirms the truth, they stop negotiating with reality. They accept it completely, painfully, and permanently. They don't rewrite the story to feel better about it. They don't cling to what could have been. They accept what is, because they've learned that denial might protect your heart for a moment, but it traps your soul forever. Acceptance, on the other hand, hurts once, but heals for good. When they finally see people's true nature, they don't argue with it. They don't chase explanations or apologies. They simply say, "I see you now." And that quiet acknowledgement is what separates them from everyone else. Because once the INFJ accepts what others deny, they stop being emotionally controlled by it. This acceptance changes everything. They stop expecting loyalty from people who've already shown inconsistency. They stop trying to decode mixed signals and half-hearted love. The truth, no matter how ugly, becomes their closure. And that's what makes their calm so dangerous. It's grounded in reality. They no longer live in illusions. They no longer romanticize potential. They see the world for what it is, and they adapt to it with quiet intelligence. While others are still arguing about what happened, the INFJ is already healing. While others are still pretending it didn't hurt, the INFJ has already transformed the pain into wisdom. That's why betrayal doesn't destroy them, it awakens them. Because once a Sigma INFJ accepts the truth everyone else is afraid to face, they rise above it, calm, detached, and untouchable. They don't need to deny what happened, they simply outgrow it. They stop explaining themselves. After betrayal, the Sigma INFJ learns one of the hardest truths. Not everyone deserves an explanation. For years, they try to make people understand their heart, their intentions, their silence, but betrayal teaches them something powerful. People who truly value you never need explanations, and those who demand them never listen anyway. So they stop clarifying what they meant. They stop defending how they feel, and they stop proving that their heart was in the right place. Because now they understand explaining yourself to the wrong person only drains you. The ones who betrayed them already decided their version of the story. No amount of honesty will change a mind that's committed to misunderstanding you. The INFJ's silence becomes their answer. They no longer engage in emotional debates or chase understanding. They know that truth doesn't need to be shouted. It reveals itself in time, and their peace is worth more than being right in someone else's eyes. It's not arrogance, it's self-respect. The INFJ realizes that their energy is sacred and not everyone deserves access to it. Every time they explained themselves in the past, they handed pieces of their power away, but now they protect that power like it's oxygen. When people question their distance, they don't justify it. When they're accused of being cold or different, they don't argue. They've simply evolved beyond the need for validation. Their actions speak, their silence echoes, and their presence explains everything words never could. This shift is what confuses those who betrayed them. They expect confrontation, but the INFJ gives them detachment. They expect emotion, but get silence. They expect to be chased, but the chase is over. Because once the INFJ stops explaining, they stop giving others control over their narrative. They no longer live to be understood, they live to be at peace. And that's when they become truly dangerous, when they realize they never owed anyone an explanation for who they are, what they feel, or how they choose to move forward. The Sigma INFJ doesn't need to explain themselves anymore, because their silence says everything. Their empathy turns inward. For most of their life, the Sigma INFJ's empathy has been their greatest strength and their greatest weakness. They've carried other people's pain, healed wounds they didn't cause, and tried to understand those who never tried to understand them. But after betrayal, something shifts. That empathy, once overflowing toward others, finally turns inward. They realize they've been giving love that no one ever returned. They've been saving people who didn't even want it to be saved. And now, after being betrayed by those they once protected, they decide to protect themselves instead. Their empathy doesn't disappear, it evolves. The INFJ starts to see their own heart with the same compassion they once gave away so freely. They no longer call it selfish to rest, to distance themselves, or to say no, because now they understand that self-love isn't arrogance, it's balance. This shift feels strange at first. They're used to fixing, giving, overthinking, and carrying emotional weight for others. But once they experience what it feels like to be on their own side, everything changes. Their energy stops leaking into people who drain them. Their time stops being a gift for those who never valued it. Their empathy becomes selective, not cold, but precise. They still care deeply, but now they choose where that care goes. They no longer bleed for those who cut them. And that's what makes them more powerful than ever. They learn to heal without losing themselves. Their empathy no longer leaves them empty, it fills them. Because once a Sigma INFJ starts giving themselves the love they used to beg for, they stop chasing it anywhere else. Their empathy didn't die, it just came home. They detach emotionally without announcing it. When a Sigma INFJ detaches, you won't see it coming. There's no big argument, no dramatic goodbye, no warning message that says I'm done. They simply start to fade. Conversations become shorter. Their tone gets calmer. The emotional warmth you once felt begins to disappear, not out of spite, but out of protection. The INFJ detaches quietly because they've learned that announcing your distance gives people the chance to manipulate it. They don't want explanations, fake apologies, or emotional performances. They want peace. So instead of confrontation, they choose withdrawal. Their detachment isn't cold-hearted, it's controlled. It's the result of feeling too much for too long. They've been loyal even when they were hurting, patient even when they were ignored, forgiving even when they were disrespected. But betrayal changes something inside them. It burns the illusion of connection and replaces it with truth. Now, when they sense deception, they don't react, they retreat. When they feel undervalued, they don't argue, they observe. And when they realize the relationship is one-sided, they simply stop feeding it. Their silence isn't a punishment, it's closure. People often mistake their emotional detachment for indifference, but it's not that they stopped caring, it's that they've learned who deserves their care. They no longer invest in people who drain their soul. They stop pouring empathy into empty hands. What's powerful is how calm they become during this process. The INFJ doesn't chase, doesn't explain, doesn't fight for clarity. They already have it. And that calmness, that stillness is what unnerves those who betrayed them because they realize the INFJ's energy is gone for good. Once they detach, they don't return. You can apologize, promise, or change, but the door they closed emotionally stays locked forever, not out of pride, but out of wisdom. Because once a Sigma INFJ has detached without a word, they've already healed in silence. And the calm they leave behind, that's not peace for you. That's peace for them. They observe from a distance. When a Sigma INFJ steps back, they don't disappear, they observe. Their silence doesn't mean they've stopped paying attention. It means they've shifted perspective. They're no longer inside the storm, they're watching it from above. And that's where their power lies. After betrayal, the INFJ no longer reacts emotionally. They've already felt it all. The disappointment, the confusion, the hurt. Now they're studying patterns. They start noticing how people move when they think the INFJ isn't watching, who checks in when there's nothing to gain, who speaks honestly when no one's listening. This distance becomes their clarity. They don't need confrontation anymore. They gather truth in silence. They see who shows consistency, who hides behind words, and who repeats the same cycles. It's not about revenge, it's about understanding. The Sigma INFJ's mind works like a mirror. From a distance, they reflect behavior without judgment, and what's revealed is always raw and honest. They notice the emotional shifts, the subtle tones, the energy behind the words. Betrayal sharpens their intuition to surgical precision. People often mistake their silence for indifference, but it's not that they don't care, it's that they finally see. Distance allows them to separate emotion from observation, empathy from attachment, and once they see someone's true nature clearly, they never unsee it. From afar, they start recognizing who deserves to stay in their life and who doesn't. They make mental notes, quietly, patiently, and by the time they decide, it's final. Because when an INFJ cuts someone off, it's never impulsive. It's a decision made after endless observation, reflection, and acceptance. Their distance is not revenge, it's protection. Watching from afar helps them preserve their peace while staying grounded in truth. They no longer get caught up in emotional games. They move differently, wiser, calmer, untouchable. Because once a Sigma INFJ starts observing from a distance, they stop being controlled by emotion and start being guided by awareness. And awareness, for them, is the ultimate revenge. They transform pain into purpose. For most people, pain is something to escape. But for the Sigma INFJ, pain becomes the raw material of transformation. When they've been betrayed, they don't let the hurt destroy them. They let it refine them. Every heartbreak, every disappointment, every silent breakdown becomes a catalyst for something greater. They don't waste their pain screaming into the void. They sit with it. They study it. They ask themselves what this moment is trying to teach them because they know pain that's ignored repeats itself, but pain that's understood evolves you. Instead of using pain as an excuse to give up, they turn it into fuel. They start creating, building, and improving with a calm intensity that others can't understand. What once broke them now becomes the reason they rise earlier, work harder, and protect their peace more fiercely. For the Sigma INFJ, transformation isn't dramatic. It's quiet, almost invisible. They don't post about their comeback. They become the comeback. They channel the chaos into discipline and the heartbreak into purpose. Their silence, once mistaken for sadness, now hides strength. And that's what makes their calm dangerous, because it's not numbness, it's focus. Every ounce of pain that was meant to crush them now fuels their self-mastery. They take what was meant to end them and use it to build the unbreakable version of themselves. In time, that pain loses its sting. It turns into wisdom, into clarity, into drive. They no longer resent what happened, they thank it. Because without the betrayal, they might have never discovered their power. The Sigma INFJ doesn't run from pain. They absorb it, reshape it, and return it to the world as purpose. Because pain doesn't define them, it forges them. They redefine trust. After betrayal, the Sigma INFJ's relationship with trust changes forever. They used to give it freely, believing that good intentions would attract the same in return. But now they understand that trust is sacred and not everyone deserves it. They stop assuming everyone has the same heart they do. This realization doesn't make them cold, it makes them wise. The INFJ no longer confuses kindness with access. They can still forgive, but they no longer forget. They can still love, but only with boundaries. Trust is no longer something they hand out, it's something that must be earned slowly through consistency, honesty, and energy that feels safe. They've learned that people's words mean little without action. So now they watch more than they listen. They don't fall for promises, they study patterns. Because betrayal taught them that a person's true nature is revealed not by what they say, but by what they repeat. This new version of trust makes their relationships deeper, but fewer. Their circle gets smaller, but stronger. The INFJ no longer fears solitude. They prefer it to fake connections. And when they do let someone in, it's because that person has proven loyalty through action, not charm. The beautiful irony is that betrayal didn't destroy their ability to trust, it upgraded it. It turned blind trust into earned trust. It turned naive hope into mature discernment. Now, when the INFJ trusts someone, it means something. It carries weight because they've already seen what happens when trust is misplaced, and they'll never repeat that mistake again. Their calmness in relationships comes from confidence, not fear. They no longer chase reassurance because they finally trust their own judgment. That's the power of the Sigma INFJ's evolution. Betrayal didn't break their heart. It sharpened their intuition. And now their trust isn't fragile anymore, it's gold. They emerge stronger, colder, and wiser. When the storm finally ends, when the betrayal fades into memory, the Sigma INFJ doesn't come back the same. They rise from the ashes, not bitter, not broken, but transformed, stronger than before, colder than before, and infinitely wiser. That coldness isn't cruelty, it's clarity. They've learned to stop giving warmth to people who only come close to take. Their calm presence, once soft and nurturing, now carries a weight that demands respect. They no longer rush to explain, forgive, or fix, because experience has taught them that peace is preserved by distance, not discussion. They move differently now. They speak less, observe more, and protect their energy with quiet precision. The same heart that once gave endlessly now beats with purpose. The same mind that once overthought every word now rests in silence. They no longer seek validation. They seek alignment. Betrayal taught them who they are without everyone else's opinions. It stripped away illusions and left only truth, and that truth gave them power. The kind of power that comes from surviving something that should have broken them. People who once underestimated them will notice the difference. The INFJ's eyes will be calmer but colder, their boundaries firmer but fair, their silence heavier, not with sadness, but with certainty. They've learned that not every battle deserves their emotion, and not every person deserves access to their heart. Now they don't need closure, they are the closure. They don't need revenge, they embody evolution. Their calmness confuses those who once hurt them, because it's the peace that comes from knowing nothing external can shake what's been rebuilt within. The Sigma INFJ emerges from betrayal like steel from fire, purified, focused, and unshakable. They've become the version of themselves that no longer needs to prove anything, because pain already proved it for them. When a Sigma INFJ gets betrayed, they don't come back seeking revenge. They come back as someone you'll never recognize. They don't shout, they don't fight, and they don't try to prove what was real. They simply evolve, silently, completely, and permanently. The storm they went through didn't destroy them, it cleansed them. It stripped away illusions, removed attachments, and revealed a version of themselves that doesn't break anymore. Their calmness after betrayal isn't emptiness, it's mastery. It's what happens when pain no longer controls them and peace becomes their priority. The world mistakes their distance for coldness, but it's not. It's protection, it's awareness, it's knowing that some people were lessons, not losses. And now they move through life lighter, not because they forgot, but because they forgave themselves for trusting the wrong ones. This is the evolution of the Sigma INFJ, the healer who learned to heal themselves, the empath who finally turned compassion inward, the loyal soul who found peace in solitude. Their calm isn't just dangerous, it's divine, because nothing is stronger than a person who's been broken, rebuilt, and still chooses peace. So if you've been betrayed, don't chase closure. I become it. Don't seek understanding, become the lesson. And never apologize for the peace that came after your pain. If this message spoke to your soul, subscribe to Brainy One, like this video, and comment, "My calm is my comeback." Because when a Sigma INFJ finally goes quiet, they're not gone, they're becoming untouchable.